It's open when we need like RSVP. Okay. But yeah, definitely. I think it's gonna be a thing. Yeah, right. So it'll be fun.
Can everybody hear me okay? Mm-hmm. Awesome. So this is our first stop of the night. This is the Tampa Theater. It was built in 1926. It was designed by a man named John Eberson. And probably the thing that John was best known for is he designed these type of theaters called atmospheric theaters, which if you've never heard of that before, it was pretty much a fad during the silent film era, a little bit up into the 1930s, to build these theaters that were meant to transport their patrons to another place in time. This one specifically, if you were actually in the auditorium of the theater, it's actually decorated like an old world courtyard. So there's facades of buildings, statues of birds and flowers. There's actually a projection that plays on the ceiling of 98 stars and clouds. It moves around while you watch it. So it's pretty cool. And for the most part, everything in this theater is original to when it was built. The only thing that's really changed is there was a period in the 70s where it closed briefly, and they kind of restored some things. And the theater originally had an orchestra pit, and during that time they actually covered it up with a stage. It's pretty much the only thing that's changed though. One other thing that's original to the theater that's pretty cool is it has what's known as a Mighty Wurlitzer organ. Mighty's actually in the title. They still use it to this day. It actually carries over down on the platform where the pit used to be up to where the stage is now. So I think those are all the basic facts you guys need to know about the building. You want to hear some ghost stories about it? I figured. So in 1930, there was a man by the name of Foster Finley, affectionately known as Fink. I don't know how affectionate that nickname is, so that's what he was known as. Fink. Yeah. A real charmer. And Fink got the position of projectionist here at the theater. He got his job the old-fashioned way, nepotism. In other words, his brother was the manager, so he got his job really, really easily. Despite that though, Foster couldn't have been a more perfect fit for the Tampa Theater. He was extremely dedicated to what he did and he really loved his job. And during the time that Foster was alive and that he worked here, he was here so much in this theater that it was almost like he lived here. He was always the first employee to get here, last employee to leave, and he had this really strict routine that he was following every day. He had the keys to the theater, so he'd usually show up about 2 hours before it opened. He'd head straight in the door, go to the concession stand, make a pot of coffee, then with his cup of coffee in hand and a customary cigarette hanging from the side of his mouth, he'd make the long climb up to the projections booth. Up there.
What were you expecting to see at this store?
More haunted buildings.
More haunted buildings? No.
I was expecting to go...
A little more visual. Yeah, there's more of a storytelling.
Yeah. Where are you from?
Clearwater, Florida.
Clearwater? And what made you want to take this trip?
They talked me into it.
They talked you into it? Why so? Maybe to like, for more historical background or more for the scare factor?
Scare factor.
Scare factor?
Yeah.
And you said you've been to other places that have this scare factor?
Yeah, St. Augustine.
St. Augustine? And do they take you on more personal tours?
Yeah, you've gone self-guided tours. You can see the oldest pharmacy and the oldest school in the nation.
Okay.
It's one of the oldest cities in the country.
All right.
It's got a lot of historical.
Very interesting. Thank you.
I found it online actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you study history, or is this kind of just you
Oh,
learned it all while
not
on the
really.
job?
I went to school for like media and broadcasting and communications, so it wasn't, public speaking wasn't like really that much of a stretch or
Yeah.
anything, so.
Okay.
Have you experienced any of those, stories like ghost stories?
I've seen people get some pretty weird pictures on the tours before. There's actually a stop that I don't go to anymore. It's not exactly the most family-friendly story to begin with, and it came under new ownership, so a lot of times they leave the lights on. But people used to catch pictures there like almost every tour of like figures in the windows and figures outside the building. And it's actually right across from the Fort Brooke parking garage. If you guys do go over there, there's like a 2-story brick building on the corner, like straight across from the entrance, and that's where people used to catch a lot of pictures.
So have you gone to the Tampa Theater, the place Eagle? Have you been?
Yeah, I've been inside the Tampa Theater. It was actually probably one of the first places I went to when I moved to Tampa. It's amazing. Yeah. I didn't see a ghost in there though.
Yeah.
It's pretty creepy. It looks like the Haunted Mansion inside though.
Do you think there's a historical authenticity to all the stories you tell? I mean, obviously there is.
Yeah,
a lot
actually,
of context.
where all the stories come from, because I kind of mentioned a little bit on the tour.
Yeah.
All the ones that are totally kind of bogus, I usually state it outright that they are. A lot of them, while they might be a little bit hokey, they really do come from either like a person's story or a documented story or like a combination of both. Pretty much the tour, I mentioned Deb on the tour, also my boss, they're both authors and storytellers. So they did a lot of like historical research and built the ghost stories out of that.
Yeah.
So do you keep the stories as they are? I mean, how many? Are there a lot of you doing tours around?
Ooh, I don't know. We're all independent contractors, so I hardly ever see anybody else that works for the company.
Okay.
I was wondering if you stick with the story that they give you, like the facts, the story.
Yeah,
You,
I mean, you can kind of, after you've been doing it for a while, you can kind of deliver it whatever way you want to, but yeah, it's pretty much the same backbone of the story. Yeah.
Where do you think most of the people who come on the tour come from?
Probably the busiest month is definitely October, and that's pretty much just locals. It's usually people that don't want to do like the big theme park things, that maybe have like little kids and stuff like that, and just want something a little bit not so in your face.
Okay. So maybe people like
And
some
a lot of times people
locals.
from out of town through like the rest of the year kind of do it, and then locals throughout pretty much too.
Okay. And any other questions?
I have a question, but for Halloween, do you guys you dress up?
I usually do a little bit more than what I did tonight. I usually like will wear like some kind of like funny shirt or something, but I don't dress up too crazy. If you get Deb on a tour that I kind of mentioned, she goes all out. She has like spider webs all over and everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right. So are we all set? Yep.
Awesome. Well, great.
Thank
Good
you.
luck on your project.